What is going on, guys? My name is Squishy, and welcome to the channel. Before I get into this real quick, if y'all could just hit that like button and hit subscribe, that would be awesome. And then this is going to be a in-depth video talking about the NFL main slate on September 27th. As I said, this is going to be a little bit longer video, and if you want to see the shorter video, in about 2 days, I'll put out about a 10 to 15 minute short, quick video. But let's get right into it. Okay, first up we have Russell Wilson, the very top, $7,300. Still underpriced in my opinion. Russ is cooking, boys. 34 points each of these past two games, and guess what? His opponents have gotten even easier. He's going against Dallas, which Matt Ryan was able to air raid on, which that was a laughable game. But if you want to pay for 7-3 for Russell Wilson and pair him with Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf, I would be a great play in my opinion, and I would not opposed view doing that whatsoever. And same thing with Dak Prescott, 7,200. Same thing. The Cam Newton threw for 390 something yards on them. So Dak Prescott can do it as well. He put up a monster game last week. I expect he's going to get a bunch of ownership this week, so I wouldn't want you to do GPP for Dak Prescott. Cash games though, I would do Dak Prescott. And just by the way, I'm getting all my picks I'm going to be saying and stuff. This is all going to be GPP picks, big tournament picks, going for the wins and stuff like that. You need low ownership picks, but also players that I think are going to be the top scorers on the slate. Then now next up we're going to do Josh Allen, and he's the best. Sorry, not the best. The most passing yards for a quarterback through 2 weeks is Josh Allen. That's very surprising, actually, for me to see. Uh, it looks like the Staphon Diggs trade is working out very well. But the thing is Staphon Diggs is going to be guarded by Jalen Ramsey this week, and I think that they're going to get a bunch of pressure from Aaron Donald, and I think that it's going to be a big fade for me and Josh Allen this week. If you do I do think he will be very contrarian, though. If you do think he'll be able to penetrate this Rams defense and still throw all over them, I think the Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs pairing for GPPs will be very low owned, and it'll be risky, especially since they priced up Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen this slate. So I think that that would be a low owned play, though, if you do think that they are going to have a good game this week. Next up, we have Kyler Murray going against Detroit. He's had two great games in a row, 27 points and 33 points, and now he's going against Detroit, who has a terrible defense. So if you wanted to go with Kyler Murray at 6,800 and pay up top, this top 6,500 to 7,300 range is the where most of the good matchups are going to be this week. They did a pretty good job about pricing them up, and but it's still not enough is the thing. So, but if you wanted to go Kyler Murray and Hopkins again this week, or the Kyler Murray and Christian Kirk or something like that this week, it would not be a bad play going against Detroit. But I'm going to actually be fading Murray this week since he's been doing so well, and I'm going to tell you why once we get to the running back section in a little bit. Next up, I have one of my favorite plays on the whole slate is Cam Newton going against Las Vegas. Last night, Drew Brees was not able to do too much against them. He did not look that sharp, but Alvin Kamara looked. Wait, yeah, okay, never mind. And Alvin Kamara was able to run all over them. So I think that Cam will have a very easy time throwing and running on this Las Vegas defense, and so maybe a Cam Newton with a run back of Josh Jacobs. I think that'd be a good build for a lineup this week. But Cam Newton at 6,700 is still underpriced, and he needs to be a lot more because this man is balling with his nuclear 38-point fantasy game on Sunday night. Next up, we have Matt Ryan at 6,600. My bad. And even though he's had two great games, I don't think Matt Ryan's going to be a great play this slate. The Chicago defense has been pretty stout, and I'm going to be fading Matt Ryan and Calvin Ridley and all those people. Next up, we have Deshawn Watson. I have no comment on this just because I'm a Texans fan. I don't want to give any bias on this, but I think the Texans are in a slump. Or whatever. I'll give my take on it. I think the Texans are just in a slump. There's it's only a matter of time until he has a huge game. He's going to be very low owned, I believe, in tournaments this week, especially going against this big Pittsburgh front. So maybe your best option for if Deshawn Watson is doing a Deshawn Watson pairing with Brandon Cooks, and then maybe throwing in Jordan Akins as your tight end. I'll talk about that later, though. Better spot is right below him is Big Ben Roethlisberger going against this terrible Houston Texans defense. I would say a great play and one of my locks for the slate is Ben Roethlisberger at 6,400. This is a good play right here. 22 points both these games. He's got a pretty safe floor, and his opponent just got a lot easier. All right, keep moving down. Matt Stafford against Arizona. I'm going to stay away from it. Joe Burrow against Philadelphia. This is one of, if you're not looking to pay a lot for a quarterback this week, Joe Burrow, I think I think he'll be low owned, and he's pretty cheap, 6,200, and he got 28 points last game, and it wasn't even the best game that I saw from him. So, I mean, like, it wasn't, everyone was saying that Joe Burrow had a great game. I was like, I mean, he played okay. I have seen him play so much better. So I can see his potential from it, but that's why I think he'd be a great play this week because this Philadelphia defense has been trash. So we're going to put Joe Burrow in our quarterback slot for there. We're going to keep on moving down. Okay. Next up, Tom Brady going against Denver. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that play. Philip Rivers, I feel like they're just going to be running the ball all game against the Jets. They're going to jump out too early and just give it to Jonathan Taylor. It's going to be the Jonathan Taylor show. So, yep, there's that. I'm not going to be on Rivers. Tannehill. Minnesota's had a pretty terrible defense. So if you are looking for another low price quarterback, Ryan Tannehill would be another good play for y'all right here. Okay. Herbert, if he gets the start, I really like as well. Same price as Tannehill at 5,900, and he's going against the very bad Carolina defense. Carson Wentz, I'm not going to play until he proves me wrong. Trubisky, okay, and this is my other. I have a couple punts. So my punts for you are going to be Trubisky going against Atlanta, which Dak Prescott was able to get a 40-point game off of. If you're a Trubisky believer and you think MVP Mitch can pull it off, 5,700 is not a steep price whatsoever. Personally, I do not like Mitchell Trubisky whatsoever, and I will not be playing him. But if you fancy a 5,700 Mitchell Trubisky, there he is. Okay, let's go down. My other punt plays for you are Daniel Jones at 5,500 going against a depleted San Francisco defense. They're not going to have Nick Bosa. They're not going to have Nick Bosa. They're not going to have Solomon Thomas. And Richard Sherman was placed on the IR last week, so that means they will also not have Richard Sherman. I think a very low-owned GPP stack will be, you know what, I'm going to take this out, and I'm going to put in Daniel Jones for the quarterback slot for this video. Another honorable mention will be Derek Carr going against New England, which Russ was very, very efficient of last night, and he is only 5,400. We saw Derek Carr have a great game on Monday Night Football. I think this might be one of my favorite plays of the slate for the low-price quarterbacks. All right, and that's going to wrap it up for the quarterbacks. Let's get into the running backs. All right, now at running back, top of the list is Zeke Elliott because McCaffrey obviously got hurt last week. So Zeke Elliott is at 8,300, and this is going to be my take on Zeke this week, is that the Seahawks have been pretty stout on the defensive line and haven't given up too many rushing yards, and both weeks we've seen teams have a lot of success passing against them. So yes, Zeke I think will get his touches through his because he always gets passes. He got six receptions last game, I believe. 7 targets, 6 receptions, 23 points. Very, very good games. But I think this week he just won't be worth the 8.3K. Or I think that Derrick Henry or Dalvin Cook or Josh Jacobs will outscore him. So I think I'm taking a stand this week, and I'm not playing Zeke Elliott. Y'all don't have to. I think that he has potential, but you got to make some stands when you're playing GPPs, and this is going to be one of them. I'll take it if I'm wrong, but I'm not playing Zeke Elliott this week. Next up below him, I have Derrick Henry going against Minnesota at 7,800, and I feel like this is a great play. I feel like people are going to be off of Derrick Henry because of his low game last week, and he had a decent game the week before, but not as one that you wanted. I think Derrick Henry is going to have his big week this week because Jonathan Taylor ran all over the Minnesota Vikings last week, and I think 7,800 is a too cheap of a price for Derrick Henry because he is seeing 25, 27 touches, or 27. He had targets, no receptions. My bad. But then 34 touches the last game. He is just seeing too much volume to not play. Next up, right below him and playing him is Dalvin Cook. I think a good stack this week, if you can get for GPPs, would be Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook. Now I'm going to keep talking about running backs, but I'm going to put them in my lineup for what I'm showing you for a GPP stack. And yeah, so Dalvin's going against, as I said, they're going against Tennessee, which has not been the best against the run this year so far, and that defense just has not been as good as I thought they would be. So yeah, I'm going to go, and I don't think that they're going to rely on Kirk Cousins and his 3 interceptions that he threw last game. I think they're going to try and rely on putting as much volume into Dalvin Cook. Then right below him, we have Josh Jacobs, another decent matchup going against New England. 7,300 for Josh Jacobs, I feel like is a good price. We're just going to have to keep a look on his health status and make sure that because he was coming in and out of the game, it seemed to be because of an injury on Monday night. So we'll have to keep a look on his health this week before putting him in lineups. Next up, Jonathan Taylor, which got brought up to 7K, and I feel like it's still too cheap for him. He's going against the New York Jets, and I feel like they're just going to feed him the ball again. Jonathan Taylor at 7K is another great play. Right below him, Nick Chubb. I don't want to be playing any Cleveland Browns running backs this week because I feel like if the Browns are going to beat the Reds, excuse me, no, the Washington football team. Dare I say that? I feel like if they're going to beat the football team, it's going to be through Baker Mayfield in the passing game. So I feel like I'm going to be fading Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt this week. All right, next up, Austin Eckler with a very advantageous matchup against Carolina, only at 6,800. Austin Eckler is one of my favorite plays of the week this week. He is going to might be a little bit chalky since he is so low priced, but we will see. But he's a good play. Another great play right below him is James Conner going against the terrible Houston defense. 6,700. I feel like James Conner is a smash lock this week. I'm playing James Conner in a bunch of my lineups. I'm going to have a ton of exposure to him. Chris Carson. I feel like this is a great play here this week too, because Dallas cannot defend the pass, and they have been using Chris Carson in the passing game recently a good bit, and he is the lead back there. I feel like it's a little bit risky though, because they are involving Carlos Hyde, and then I heard that Rashad Penny's getting healthy too. So I don't know. I feel like I might not mess with it this week as well. Next up, I think my second favorite play of the slate is Miles Sanders at 6,400, going against the terrible defense of Cincinnati Bengals. Miles Sanders came in, people had some worries, and he came out with 20 attempts, full workload, 95 yards. He looks like he's back being the main back. He got into the end zone as well, and he had 7 targets as well. He's going to be relevant for those passing games, for the passing game as well. He can be the 3-down back. Going against Cincinnati, as I said before, 6,400, Miles Sanders is a lock this week. All right, now if you want to, I feel like, and if you want to do a lower pay down at running back stack, I feel like the Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon. I feel like Joe Mixon will go a little bit underrated or underowned this week. He's had not the best 2 games so far, but I feel like if Cincinnati can jump off to a good jump out to a little bit of a lead here against Philly, I don't feel like we're going to be seeing 60 pass attempts from Joe Burrow again. I feel like they're going to feed Mixon the ball. All right. Next up, I'm avoiding Leonard Fournette after the big game. As I said, I'm avoiding Kareem Hunt. Then Kenyan Drake. People were on him last week, and they were on him the week before, and he's only gotten 11 and 14. People might still be playing him since he's still only priced at 6K, but I think this is the big week that they've been preaching about Kenyan Drake. He's going to have a the big week. It's going to be this week. Detroit just led up such a big week to Aaron Jones, and it's going to be Kenyan Drake. Plug him in your lineup. This is my favorite play of the slate, is Kenyan Drake in the running back position. But we are running the contrarian lineup, so we are not putting him in here yet. We're going to keep going down. Gurley, no, he looked terrible. Melvin Gordon looked pretty good, actually. Tampa Bay, I don't know. I don't feel like I want to play at running back against Tampa Bay. But if Phillip Lindsay is still out, I might consider it this week. Reason being, Denver's not going to have their starting quarterback, so they might have more of a they might be forced more to feed Melvin Gordon the ball. So 5,800, not a pretty fair price. David Montgomery looked pretty good, actually, and he's going against Atlanta. I don't know if you guys believe in MVP Mitch, but if you believe in MVP Mitch, then I wouldn't play David Montgomery. And if you're not a believer in MVP Mitch, from then what you saw last week, I think that's a pretty good enough play at 5,700. David Johnson, that's just if you really believe in Houston and David Johnson's a player, go for it 5,400. I'm not going to say my opinion on that. Henderson, we're going to have to wait and see injury news for that. On my later video this week, I will talk about Henderson. Dion Lewis could be a good option here if he's named the starting running back for New York Giants. We're going to have to check back later as well. Mike Davis, 5,100. I don't feel like he's going to be that. I feel like 5,100 is too much. Chargers was a pretty good defense too last week against Clyde Edwards-Helaire and the Kansas City Chiefs. So I feel like Mike Davis is not that good of a play since they have him priced up. Joshua Kelly is an interesting play. They might feed him the ball again. I don't know. It's real interesting seeing Joshua Kelly getting so many touches in this Chargers defense. I'm going to stay away from 5K though. DeAndre Swift 5K. I'm going to stay away from Wayne Gallman, another one to look out for later in the week. Only 4.9. He was very productive whenever Saquon was out last year. So check to see if he is named the starting running back this next week or not. And then Jerick McKinnon, if Raheem Mostert, which has seemed like he was out, and if Tevin Coleman's out, Jerick McKinnon only at 4.9 seems like a great play as well. Okay, let's think. Singletary, no. Hines, no. Gibson could be interesting at only 4.7 going against this Cleveland front. No, Cleveland has a great front, actually. What am I saying? Do not play Gibson. No, he's on my fade list as well. That's going to do it for now on the running backs, and now we will go to wide receiver. Starting at the top wide receiver, we got Nuke Hopkins, 7,900. Going against Detroit, wouldn't be surprised if he popped off again. He has had 9 targets last game and 16 targets the game before, 32 and 20 points. Feel like he pays off his salary each game. Nuke Hopkins, what more can I say? If you all know football, you know Nuke. Julio Jones, keep an eye on his hamstring, and if he doesn't end up playing, I think Calvin Ridley at 7,200 comes up to be a pretty good play this slate. Got to be careful for the Chicago defense, though, but I still think Atlanta's going to be throwing for a lot of yards, and Calvin Ridley will be part of it. Excuse me. Wow, I'm sorry. All right, Staphon Diggs. I feel like this week Staphon Diggs is going to have a bad week finally. He's had such a crazy 16 and 32 fantasy points. Crazy weeks for Staphon Diggs. 7K. I don't think I could do it this week. Someone that I think I can do and that I think will be low owned in GPPs will be Adam Thielen. Had a poor game last week, but the 34 the week before. We got to catch him on a week like this, going against Tennessee, who gave up a lot of yards to Gardner Minshew last week. I think Kirk Cousins might be able to have a bounce back game with Adam Thielen. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, with both them playing, I don't really want to mess with it and try and guess which one does good, because whenever I pick one, the other one pops off. All right, Juju Smith-Schuster, advantageous matchup against Houston. Between him, Deandre Johnson, and the Claypool kid, got to go either with Juju or Deandre Johnson. I feel like Juju might have a big game this week, actually. I feel like Juju might be the guy. If you're going between them, I know Deandre Johnson's looked like he's been the guy, but I feel like Juju will outscore Deandre this week. So if you're feeling like one of them, play them. Okay, now where all the ownership's going to come through and where I'm going to have my ownership at is going to be this Dallas and Seattle game. There's a bunch of different combinations of what they're going to be. For this lineup, I don't feel like I really have to talk about all of them. Amari Cooper, we know what this man can do. He's had 9 targets and 14 targets. Dak's been throwing his way a lot, and this man makes plays too. 18 and 19 points for 6,500. I feel like Amari Cooper is still priced way too low, so I'm going to put Amari Cooper right in my lineup. Okay, DK Metcalf. I feel like he is the better receiver between Lockett and Metcalf, but watching the Dallas and Atlanta game, Julio didn't get loose too much. So I feel like Lockett might be the better play. I'm between the two. I feel like save $100 and just go with Lockett. And if you want to look at their games, 17 and 19 for Lockett and Metcalf, 19 and 19. So it's right around the same. Save $100. Let's just play Lockett this week. We're going to put both of them in our lineup, and then we're going to pay down later on. Okay, let's talk about the rest of the wide receivers, though. Next up, we have Odell Beckham Jr. going against this Washington football team's defense. I feel like the way they're going to have success this week, the Cleveland Browns would be throwing the ball, whether it's through Jarvis Landry or Odell Beckham Jr. Pick your poison. I feel like the Browns are going to be throwing a lot more than running. And 6,300 is a fair price for Odell, so give me some Odell this week. Cooper Kupp I don't feel like hasn't had the best 2 games. No, 8 points and 14 points. He did get a decent game last week, so getting back on track. Going against Buffalo's stout defense, though, I wouldn't be playing any Cooper Kupp this week. Right below him is where I would go, and that's Julian Edelman, who had a monster 28-point fantasy game this week. 11 targets. Cam Newton is throwing the ball to Julian Edelman. So 6,200 for Julian Edelman. Get a Cam Newton Edelman stack. Wouldn't be a bad play this week. I like me some Edelman. Next up, Allen Robinson. I feel like he might not go highly owned this week. So if you feel like Allen Robinson is your man, give me some Allen Robinson at 6'2". It's a good spot for him, but I don't know, man. I don't think I'm going to be playing him. Robert Woods, he's, again, the Buffalo defense. I'm going to be off the Rams receivers this week. Same with Carolina receivers. I know they've been performing pretty well, DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, but the Chargers, I think, have one of the best secondaries in the league, in my opinion, so I will not be playing them. On the flip side, though, Carolina has a terrible secondary, so Keenan Allen, who seemed like he got very involved last week with Justin Herbert playing, depending on who's the quarterback this week, that'll be on my plays on this Los Angeles Chargers players. And Keenan Allen, if Herbert's playing, I feel like would be a good play this week against Carolina. AJ Green, I'm not touching until he proves me wrong. Will Fuller, I'm not going to touch until he proves me wrong either. Tyler Boyd, feels like he might be a reasonable play at 5'9". I might have to consider playing him myself. He's been standing out a lot more than AJ Green. He had 8 targets last week, 7 for 72, and he found the end zone. Good 20-point fantasy game. I feel like he could be the main man for Joe Burrow, honestly. 5.9 is a fair price for him as well. The reason why I'm not really considered playing him, though, is because Terry McLaurin is priced right at 5.9 as well, and he's going against Cleveland. I don't know. I think I have to save more. He got 10 targets. Dwayne Haskins isn't throwing to anyone but him, really. And this man makes plays, too. So 125 yards and found the end zone. 28.5 fantasy points. Terry McLaurin is a big play for me this week. Keep your eye on him. Only 5.9. Marvin Jones, I'm not feeling too high. Actually, okay, so Marvin Jones, people might be disappointed with only 9 and 12 within the past 2 weeks because they were like, oh, well, Kenny Galladay's been out. That's the thing. Kenny Galladay's been out. They think it might increase his ability to do more in games because Galladay is out, but when Galladay is on the field, it puts the second best corner on Marvin Jones instead of the first best corner on him. So maybe with Galladay on the field, this might be Jones's week. We'll just have to see. John Brown again, 2 good secondary defensive teams. I'm going to stay away from this Buffalo Rams game. T.Y. Hilton, I'm not playing until he proves me wrong. He's looked very, very bad, honestly. Jarvis Landry at 5.5. This might be the lowest we see him all season. He could have the big week this week. I think Jarvis Landry could be a steal for 5-5 potentially. Michael Gallup, has been worrying me with his targets. With CD, it seems like Dak Prescott has been preferring CD Lamb compared to Michael Gallup. So if you're considering one of these other Dallas receivers in your stack with this Dallas-Seattle game, I would consider CD Lamb over Michael Gallup. Save your $100, just like this Tyler Lockett situation. All right. Deandre Johnson looks like he's questionable. Continues lingering toe issue. Okay, we'll have to see more about that this week. That could open up more possibilities for the Steelers receivers going against Houston this week then. Sterling Shepard does have turf toe. I'm pretty sure he's going to be out this week. So I'm going to keep my eye on some of these Giants receivers with my Giants stack that I have going on here. Crowder, if he plays, he's the only viable Jets receiver, I'd say, right now. Next up, Deshaun Jackson. I'm not playing him till he has consistent games. Okay, Brandon Cooks. He actually had a pretty good game for Houston this week. He was the only receiver that really did anything, and he had 8 targets from Deshaun. It looks like Deshaun is liking Brandon Cooks, and with all of our receivers on the field, Brandon Cooks could be a pretty big threat. Going against Pittsburgh this week, I feel like the Texans are going to be throwing the ball a lot, and Brandon Cooks could lead to a big game. Only at 5,200. Could be a steal this week. Brandon Cooks. Corey Davis could still be the main man in Tennessee if A.J. Brown misses another week. We're going to have to wait for the injury news on that. As I said earlier, and fading Robbie Anderson. Russell Gage, if you're on the game theory along that Atlanta is going to be throwing a lot and they're going to succeed against the Chicago defense, then Russell Gage has had a pretty strong season so far. Henry Ruggs, if he's looking healthy, I'm feeling like he's a pretty good play at only 5K going against New England. He looked sharp week 1, and then looked like the injury might have slowed him down week 2, but Derek Carr was spreading the ball around and looked great. Let's see, Judy could be a good play, but I'm not going to be playing him with a backup quarterback. Miller had a pretty bad week last week. Okay, so Miller had a great week 1, only 4 catches, but he was very productive with 76 yards and a touchdown, 17 points. And then a goose egg this week. I think the ownership on Anthony Miller might be pretty low this week, and he's going against this terrible Atlanta defense that gave up that comeback to Dallas. Anthony Miller for 4.9 might have a good bounce back week, and he might be low owned, so keep your eye on that. Next up, Darius Slayton. This is going to be the other part of my stack, and it's going to be Darius Slayton with Daniel Jones in here. Just putting these, not a stack, but just pairing I feel like you always should pair your quarterback with one of their pass catchers. And Darius Slayton emerged as the top guy whenever Golden Tate missed time. So now I'm going to be playing Slayton when Sterling Shepard is missing time. See the correlation? All right. Next up, Fitz could be an all right pick for 4.6, not too egregiously priced at all. Amendola 4.6, no. And the other Giants receiver that you could do in this would be Daniel Jones and Golden Tate, or Daniel Jones and Darius Slayton. So Golden Tate could have a big game as well this week for only 4.5. All right, let's do some other low-priced players for wide receiver. Nikhil Harry had a pretty good game last week, 15 points, and he looked like he was the only other target other than Edelman that Cam was throwing the ball to, and he really likes him. He's been targeting him heavily, so I think Nikhil Harry for only 4,200 could be big. Mike Williams, I thought he was going to have the big game last week, so I think it's this week now. Against Carolina, against this terrible defense, 4,300 for Mike Williams could be a steal. All right, and then let's keep going down. Michael Pitman Jr., since Paris Campbell's out for Indy, they could have a big game. It could be a good low-owned play for 4K. Adam Humphries, he saw the end zone last week, got 15 fantasy points and 10 points the week before with A.J. Brown on the field. Adam Humphries might be a good only 3.9 going against Minnesota. I think Adam Humphries might be one of the best low-price plays this week for your value. All right, that's going to wrap it up for now. I'm going to go over value more later this week in the video, and then let's go into tight ends. All right, George Kittle, he's questionable this week. I heard some people say that the 49ers played at the Giants/Jet Stadium last week and that they were complaining about the turf there and did not like it. And that a bunch of people got injured on it and that they're having worries about having to play there again this week against the Giants. And because of that, I feel like they might be sitting out George Kittle this week. We're just going to have to keep our eye on him and because he might be banged up, I think I'm going to be off him this week as well. Higbee had the big week last week, and I don't think I'm going to be playing him against Buffalo. Darren Waller is the top tight end I'll be paying for this week at 5.7. He looked like to be the main guy. He was the main guy that Derek Carr was throwing to last night. I watched the game. 16 targets. The man was a beast. 12 receptions, 103 yards, and found the end zone. 31 points for Darren Waller. Man's a beast. 5.7 is an understatement, and he is still underpriced. Going against New England, I feel like Darren Waller was a pretty good play this week. Next up, Noah Fant. I feel like he's going to be the main guy in Denver now that Cortland Sutton will be out. We'll have to see how their quarterback, Jeff Driscoll, will be playing this next week. I'm going to be off of him for the week just because of the quarterback play. TJ Hawkinson going against Arizona. I feel like I'm going to be off him as well. I usually pay down at tight end, and then the other reason why I won't be playing TJ is because below him, Johnny Smith, who's been extremely efficient for Tennessee and is going against Minnesota, who gave up a lot of receiving yards to Mo Alley Cox. Yeah, exactly. That's all I got to say. 5-2 for Johnny Smith. He is going to be a good play this week. I'm going to be off of Zach Ertz until he has a big game. I'm not going to be paying $5,100 for a tight end. That's going to get me 9 points. Just not going to do it. Evan Ingram, I'm going to be off of as well. Goddard, let's see how he did this week. 4 for 30, not a big game. Goddard would be the one out of Ertz. I'd play Goddard. Save money, and he's been looking better than him. Hunter Henry's looked pretty good as well. He's going against Carolina. Hunter Henry might be a good play for 4.8. Keep your eye on Hunter Henry this week. Dalton Schultz, the big game for Dallas that last week. I think it was a little bit of a fluke. I feel like he is going to be involved a lot, and Dak did like throwing him the ball. So Dalton Schultz could be an option. It's just I don't know if I'd be paying 4.5 for him when Austin Hooper's right below him at 4.4. I'm not too big on Austin Hooper, but it's just the fact that I don't know if I could pay for him when there's so many better plays that are cheaper. Greg Olsen against Dallas, potentially. Jordan Reed could become a big play this week again if George Kittle misses the game. Jordan Reed would be a big value play at 4K. Again, Jack Doyle if he misses, same thing for Mo Alley Cox. Play Mo Alley Cox if Jack Doyle misses. He had the big game. Logan Thomas, 3.7. This is going to be one of my favorite tight end plays of the slate. He has seen 8 targets and 9 targets both games, only hauled in 4 catches for each of them for 26 yards. He had touchdown in the first one, and he had another touchdown that he could have had, but it was a terrible pass. Dwayne Haskins just needs to have a little bit more on target passes, and Logan Thomas will have a big game. 3.7K, Logan Thomas. Give me some of that. Drew Sample would be another good low-priced tight end. He's going to be taking over since Ozama's out. And he had 9 targets last game, 7 receptions, 45 yards, 11 fantasy points for Drew Sample, only 3.5 came. And then my other low-priced tight end for you is going to be Jordan Akins. He didn't find the end zone, but he still had 7 targets for 7 receptions and 55 yards. 2 weeks in a row above 10 fantasy points and at 3K. Still at 3.4. Jordan Akins is my low-owned, low-price tight end of the week. I'm going to put him in my lineup. Now, since we've already gone over running backs and wide receivers, I'm going to plug in someone that I had my eye on already, and that is going to be, let me find out who it was again, Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin, I think he's going to have a big week against Cleveland, and then we're going to wrap it up with a punt with our Jets defense just to save as much salary as you can to play the studs, and that is going to be the lineup and the video. Thank you all for watching again. Like the video, subscribe to the video, and if y'all made it this far, y'all are the GOATs, and comment number 1 in the comments. Let's go, boys. Let's cash.